Bilaterally, you all know that the President directed Ambassador Kirk to address the key outstanding issues with respect to the Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement by the G20 in Seoul this November. What an opportunity, once we are able to address those issues, that provides for the services sector, given the high level of services commitments in the FTA relating to access to telecommunications networks, financial services, transparency in the regulatory sector. Look at all of the work that's being done also bilaterally between the United States and China in the context of the JCCT on various service-related issues, whether it's in the area of insurance or telecommunications or other financial services. And then look regionally. I mean, one of the things that's again so exciting for us at USTR and for the administration generally is we have the opportunity to focus our initiatives on the Asia-Pacific region by hosting APEC in 2011. That provides all of us an incredible opportunity to show what we can do in the area of services trade, in particular, of particular interest to us in this audience today, and focusing on not just our own attention, but the attention throughout the country through ministerials in Montana and Honolulu, and throughout the country on the significant opportunities that exist in the Asia-Pacific for trade, for services, etc. And as we've said on this panel already, one of the most, I think, exciting of the opportunities that we have is in the area of TPP. You all know what TPP is. I don't need to go into that much detail, but one thing I think that's of interest is, what does TPP mean in the area, in the services sector? It gives us the opportunity to really, again, work on a 21st century trade agreement in the way that it affects services. What can we do in the area of ICT services? What can we do to sort of promote increased services trade on a cross-border basis? But we should also think about what we should be doing in the context of TPP to promote what is actually the most traded service, is services provided through a commercial presence. It's often more fun to talk about sort of cloud computing and things that sound very glamorous and exciting that would affect cross-border services trade, but we also need to think about lingering barriers in the Asia-Pacific region that affect the ability of service providers to offer their services through a commercial presence. And we have a great opportunity working with like-minded trading partners in the context of the TPP to really set up, as Tim said, something that really is extremely forward-looking. So there's a lot of great stuff going on in the Asia-Pacific region, generally in trade policy, but specifically with services. And we have an exciting window to jump through over the course of the next year, and we're going to need all of your help and all of your support, both here domestically as we work towards completion of Korea and other initiatives domestically, but also as we continue our negotiations in the context of the TPP, working with our trading partners to really come up with something that's new, unique, and different, but meaningful, so that businesses in the United States, in New Zealand, in Malaysia, and otherwise can avail themselves of the advantages, the competitive advantages that this region provides.
Thanks. We started this when I was introduced. We talked about the role of China and its impact. Each of your countries, each of the countries here have a very different relationship with China than the others. And obviously, New Zealand, as the holder of the only developed country with an FTA with China, has a very unique relationship. Malaysia has had a very strong traditional relationship with China, but also one which is developing to developing countries. And the United States, we have the last president called it complex relationship with China. How does the role of China? Some people in the scholarly space talk about a competition between the United States and China for hearts and minds, economic and otherwise, in Southeast Asia, the Asia Pacific. I mean, how does the role of China drive trade policy in the United States, in Malaysia, in New Zealand, in ways that are unique and different?
Let me begin by going back into services and WTO, I just want to state the fact that for developing countries, of course we are a mixed bag of more than 100 countries, some on 48, some are on the margins and the sidelines. But I just want to reiterate this very important point that Doha is a development round, and it is important for developing countries to be convinced that they're getting benefits and development in terms of growth, in terms of development. And I would like to remind ourselves of the Millennium Development Goals. Our leaders are meeting in New York this week, and trade is supposed to be a very important agenda. So for developing countries, balance is very important. There's got to be very clear benefits to developing countries. Secondly, this issue of inclusiveness, whatever we do for the world, in respect of opening up, in respect of services, there's got to be a conviction that there's balance, and of course it includes everyone in the process. This is important, otherwise it's not going to be very easy to move forward on services. So that's my general point on WTO and services. And on TPP and services, as I said earlier, this is going to be one key area. And for us in Asia and Malaysia, services are very important. I mean, we heard this morning and last night how important services are. I think we've come around to accept that there's a convergence of views on this subject. Services are very important. I think at the whole of this year, perhaps it wasn't evident before, but in the last month or so, it's very clear to us that services are going to be the driving force for economic development and trade and growth and the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. On China, we, as a country, we never had major problems in the past. Of course, it was political, but there's been a lot of engagement in the last few decades. And last year, China became our biggest trading partner. And that has got to do with the growth of the Chinese economy, and that's got to do with the complementarities between our economy in ASEAN, Malaysia, and China. And the first 7 months of this year, for example, the trade between Malaysia and China has gone up by about 50%, which is a big increase. Pascal Lamy was saying worldwide it's going to be around 12-13%, but Malaysia and China. So that demonstrates the kind of growth and the importance of China in the economic growth of the region. And the complex relationship between America and China, we do not, of course, as a small country, would not face a similar issue. And for us, it's been a very productive relationship. There's not been too many problems. Although, having said, I must share with you some fears among our entrepreneurs. We have this agreement, ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement, which allows freer entry of goods from China. There's been concerns in the last few months, especially when we've gone through some economic difficulties, that Chinese goods are entering into our market, into the ASEAN market. Some sectors are being threatened, and it's been very challenging for us. Before that, it's been quite a smooth ride, but in recent months there's been this tension. Although we've been able to manage that, we've been telling ourselves this is temporary. In the longer term, we are firm believers in freer trade. Therefore, we hope this is a very small hiccup in this overall relationship. So overall, it's been great. There's not been too many problems. In the last few months, in some of the ASEAN countries, there's been concerns that the freer flow of Chinese goods into our part of the world has resulted in some dislocation. It is manageable, and we're confident that as the economy recovers,